everyone, this is Anushka Man and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to share how to frame the answer for that question which actually leads to rejection of a lot of good candidates. And that question is why MBA? This is a question that is asked in almost every interview in B school. Even when you enter the B school and you sit for placements and you have sort of like a diverse background, like you're switching fields. Like for me, I came from chemistry to marketing. They'll 110% ask you in every single interview, why MBA? Why MBA after chemistry? And all these questions. And these questions, they are of paramount importance because through these questions, the interviewer understands that whatever you are doing next in your career path, that your decision to take an MBA is not vague. They're not really testing that whether everything you want to do in your life is fixed or not. They're just trying to see that do you have any clarity as to what an MBA would really add to your life. Because there are a lot of aspirants, and let us all be honest that a lot of us, we want to join an MBA so that we get those fancy packages, so that we get more money and earn lots of it. But that's not what someone from a B school would want to recruit. What they are looking for is that this person who is coming to me and is wanting to do an MBA, do they have a mental clarity as to what MBA is going to add to their life? There's their past trajectory and what they wish to do by doing an MBA match together? Is there a logical sequence to it? All these things are what they are actually checking. They are checking your intent. Inherently, they also know that you are there for fancy packages and nobody is essentially there for just the career growth and all those things. And packages are important part, but that's not what you should be talking about in your MBA. Because in your MBA interviews, what you really should show is that you have an intent of learning something out of an MBA, something that you will not be able to learn if you did not pursue this particular course. So I'm going to share some examples from my own experience, from the freshers perspective and from the people who had work experience, so that you can take inspiration from that and frame your answers better. So to frame the why MBA answer, there is a very simple three step structure that you can actually follow to frame your why MBA answer, irrespective of whether you are a fresher or you are a work experience person or you are actually shifting fields, like you are some engineer or come from a non-business background and you want to enter the MBA field. Irrespective of your fields or your experience, you can use this structure, which is step number 1, speak about your past trajectory. By past trajectory, I mean that what have you done so far? Like what were the things that you were involved in? Start with a certain story, okay? Because be a good storyteller when you are in an interview. Because imagine that you are taking somebody's interview and you have to interview like 50 people in a day. It is so tiring and so draining if people just, blabber, just factual or theoretical content to you. You would want to talk to a person who's telling you interesting stories, and that will actually, help you not sleep while taking the interviews, right? Think like an interviewer. So when you do that, make sure that all your answers are like in the form of a story. So start off with a story, like which talks about that what have you done so far. Talk about it very briefly and in a very confident manner. Like for example, the story that I picked for my YMBA answer was that during my undergrad as a chemistry student, apart from chemistry, I was also involved in certain society work or in certain activities which was related to marketing. So that is where my interest was first ignited towards marketing. And that propelled me to and ignited me to sort of learn more about this field. So you see how I started off with a certain story from my past background. Second step is to tell the person what you realized was missing in the current experience that you were having. Like for example, when I was talking about my experience as for example, a marketing work that I was doing in some society, there I realized that, okay, this is something that I would want to learn more about, and the current field that I am pursuing, it might not, help me much with what I wish to learn about marketing. So then I thought that how do I enhance my marketing skills? how do I learn more about branding, and how do I, this interest that I found, how do I build on it more and learn more about it? So that is where the idea of first doing an MBA came to my mind. So you see how I briefly connected it into a smooth story. I started off with a anecdote from my past experience. I talked about what I felt, then I talked about what I felt was missing in that, and then I talked about how it propelled me to actually think of starting of doing an MBA. And that is how all the why MBA answers are formed. So this was my answer which I gave when I was giving my B school interviews. Another friend of mine, who is a friend of mine here in B school, he came from a hospitality background, and then he decided to do an MBA. So what his answer looked like was, he used to talk about that since he was from the hospitality background, it was a very people centric job. He was always like, interacting with people, and he loved serving people. But he also, the another aspect of, understanding people and working around people and doing a people centric job, what is it? It is marketing. That is what marketing essentially teaches you. So marketing felt like a natural transition for him, and hence, and also it offers like a quicker career trajectory. So that's how he decided that he wishes to do an MBA and learn more about marketing. So because the core that he actually loved, that is people centricity, he can build more around it. And that's how MBA came into his perspective. So that is another example that you might take inspiration from, a person who was from a hospitality background and he wanted to transition into MBA. Now, for people who have work experience, and in case you are also transitioning from, some other field, maybe from a science-based field to something like an MBA, which is completely different, you can frame your answers in a similar way. Like, for example, one of my friends, he was an engineer, and he was doing a job as a software engineer somewhere. And what his answer looked like was that he had worked on the product development side on the back end for a pretty long time, and he actually enjoyed all those things. But he always remained, while working on that job, he was curious as to how these demands for certain product specifications, they actually came into existence. How are they found? Who looks after them? How are they translated into insights? And he was really curious about that front end part. And that's how he thought that maybe, okay, this is something that really interests me and I would want to learn more about it. And that's when he felt that, okay, MBA might be the thing that is going to actually help me learn about the front end of the things. So you see how he made a story out of his past experience. He started with an anecdote, told what he found was missing or what he was looking forward to learn, and that's how the idea of doing an MBA came to his mind. So these are some examples that you can take insights from and actually build your own answers. Another very important thing that you are going to face, in case you are someone who is like me, who is transitioning from one field to another. Like for me, I came from chemistry and I was gonna do MBA, and that too in marketing. They're always going to ask you why MBA. Like they always asked me why MBA after chemistry. And the best answer for that I found is that always talk about the transferable skills that you have learned in your previous experience. Like for example, for me as a chemistry student, while doing chemistry honors, I built some analytical thinking capabilities. And then I used to give examples of one or two projects I did in lab, wherein I had to, decipher chemical reactions, or maybe decipher how to, produce certain compounds. There was lots of analytical thinking involved, understanding what factors align with what factors and all those things. So this is one of that transferable skill, the skill that chemistry really gave me, that I'm going to take forward when I do my MBA as well. Because MBA also needs analytical thinking. It also needs data-driven decision making. The same skills which were taught to me while I was doing chemistry. Similarly, like for example, if I have to talk about my friend who was doing hospitality, the skills that he learned was people centricity. How to base all your decisions around people, and how to make strategies according to it. And those are the skills that are required in an MBA as well. So he's going to transfer those skills to his when he goes on to pursue the business management or the MBA. So that is how you talk about or you justify your answer when you are switching fields. To be honest, there are only two things that are going to actually help you to tackle these questions, because I have had interviews where I was grilled a lot on why MBA, why do you want to do an MBA, why MBA after chemistry, why not chemistry, and they just keep delving into it. And other interviews, they just flowed smoothly. But in all those things, there are two factors which really help me anchor my answers. First is be a good storyteller. Okay, because have a good story, have good examples from your own life or other people's life that you can put into your answers to justify. Because trust me, whenever you tell something to someone, it might not sound that great, but when you give a real life example along with it, it sounds more believable, it sounds more credible. So be a good storyteller, have some very interesting examples, some very interesting stories from your own life, from people around you, that you can actually put into your answers, and try to put them wherever they fit, wherever you can do that, because that actually adds credibility to your answers. And second thing is, always be honest about what you are talking about. I know that a lot of times people think that if they exaggerate a lot, if they, bluff a lot in answers, they are going to sound more credible and people are going to choose them, but that's not how it happens. Always remember that the person who is taking your interview, they have been doing that for 20 years. And you are what? Like, you might be just in your early 20s or something, or maybe just turning 25. They have been on this planet for a lot more years than you. They have been doing the same job, interviewing the same people like you year after year. So it just takes them just a few seconds to catch if you are lying or if you are bluffing something. So always be authentic, be an authentic storyteller is what I would really suggest you. So these were the few tips and tricks that helped me and some of my peers to frame their YA MBA answers. And also, I have put the Google form link as we are following in every single video. The Google form link is down in the description and also pinned in the comments. If the first 5 people who fill up that form, I'm going to personally review your YA MBA answer. And that's the thing that we are going to follow for every single videos in this series. So all the very best and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.